Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Fighting Code. Today I want to talk about sparring and should all martial arts instructors make their students spar? Let's talk about it. Let's get right into it. First of all, in my Taekwondo school, all students are required to spar. If they are in class, including white belts, and we are sparring that day, they gotta spar. Unless obviously they have some kind of severe injury and they can't spar that day, then obviously okay, no sparring. But yes, I will even make my white belt spar. And I know some of you guys are like, white belt don't need to be sparring yet. And we're going to talk about it, right? Let's talk about everything here. Now, I know there was a big discussion in the MMA world where one of the UFC fighters was talking about, sparring is not as effective as you think it is, and it does cause long-term damage, and you shouldn't spar. I agree and disagree, right? MMA is different. UFC is different. They're hitting each other in the head. Even boxing, they're pounding each other in the head. So if they're going all out 24/7 every single time they spar, then obviously there's going to be some long-term damage. And you can even say that in Taekwondo as well, right? Because there's a lot of head kicks going on. And if you're just constantly getting beat in the head over and over and over, first of all, keep your hands up. What are you doing getting hit in the head so many times? Keep your hands up. Block the kick. Second of all, yes, there can be long-term damage if you're getting hit in the head over and over and over and over. So, with that being said, MMA, UFC, that's different. That's a different kind of sparring. Even boxing, that's a different kind of sparring than Taekwondo. Because, like I said, in boxing, it's constantly head hits, right? And in MMA, UFC, you got elbow to the head, even knees to the head. So that's a little bit more devastating. And again, that's another debate. A lot of people could say, yeah, well, a spinning reverse hook kick is more devastating than the elbow to the head, right? But that's not the discussion we're having right now. The discussion we're having right now is sparring. Is sparring okay for everybody, all ages, and should martial arts schools make their students spar? Like I said, with me, all of my students got to spar. After a certain belt, yellow belt, it is a testing requirement. So if they do not spar at the test, they do not get the next belt. They got to spar. Now, don't get me wrong. We're talking about sparring. We're not talking about fighting. We're not talking about competition. We are simply talking about sparring. It's completely different, right? Not everybody wants to compete. Not everybody wants to fight. Heck, I hated fighting. Growing up, my dad owned a Taekwondo school, and I started Taekwondo when I was 4, and my dad made me do tournament after tournament after tournament after tournament. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, I hated fighting. I hated competition. I hated sparring in class. I remember there would be times where my dad would pick a bigger opponent than me, right? So he would find a bigger student than me, and he would tell that student, make Joseph cry. If you don't make Joseph cry, you're going to be in trouble. And I was like, man. So all these kids were beat on me because my dad told them to make me cry. And I hated it. I mean, I really did. But looking back on it, I'm thankful. I'm thankful because I love fighting now. I love competing now. I mean, I don't compete right now, but when I was competing, I absolutely loved it. And all of those sparring matches in the past, even when I hated it, made me a better fighter. But not only that, it made me a better person. So let's go back to the root of it, right? Sparring. Why do I believe every instructor should make their students spar? Because it builds confidence, right? It builds confidence. Me, when I was growing up, I was the kind of kid that was scared of everything. Now, when I say I was scared of everything, my mom used to be so embarrassed to take me to the beach. I was 4 or 5 years old. I would go out in the sand. As soon as I see that water crash into the waves crash into the water, I started bawling like a little baby, like I was a 2-year-old baby throwing a temper tantrum. I was scared of everything. I got on a merry-go-round. You know the little merry-go-round where the horses go up and down? My mom put me on the merry-go-round. They started the thing, and I am bawling, throwing a temper tantrum. I was that kid. I was scared of everything. If it moved, I was scared of it. Y'all guys remember, I know some of the older guys might remember, around my age, when they had those little quarters you could ride the horses in front of the grocery store, like in front of Walmart for a quarter. Y'all remember that? I did that. Bawling, ball like a baby. I mean, can you imagine a little 5-year-old, 6-year-old boy riding a little 25-cent horse and he's out there screaming, embarrassing everybody? I mean, I was an embarrassment. I was scared of everything. But I think what sparring does, it helps you face those fears, right? Like I said, we don't have to be fighters. We don't have to be competitors. We're not all trying to go to the Olympics. We're not all trying to go to competition, even just a local competition. Not everybody want to go to competitions. Not look. Most of you school owners know this, and y'all can agree with me on this. Most of you school owners, y'all will have about 5 to 10% of your students that are out there saying, "Hey, I want to ball out and fight. I want this. I want, and nobody's gonna stop me, right? So I got those kids that are just like, bring them to me, right? Anybody stand in my way, I'm gonna run them over, right? But that's only like 5 to 10% of your students. If even past 5%, right? So you have, it might be just 2% of the students that are like hardcore fighters that are one day gonna transition into MMA. They get a good, nice striking taekwondo background and then transition into MMA because they want that. I'm gonna beat somebody down and bite the ear off kind of mentality, right? You have those kind of people, and then you have the other 5 to 10%, or the other, let's say 8 to 10%, right? That are competition fighters, right? They love the sport. They love the sport of taekwondo. They love the sport aspect, not the traditional aspect, as to say, but they love the sport aspect, and they see it's an Olympic sport, and they can go to the World Championship, they can travel, and you have fighters like those. And they're going to go out there and give it their all. But then what about the other 90%? Right? What about the other 90%? Right? Me, I'm a old school person. I love that old school fighting, that trembling shot, that all the old school guys talk about. We always say the same thing. Man, I miss the old school days when it was trembling shot. You hit that person, and if they didn't move, it wasn't a point. I miss trembling shock days, right? We always have those coaches, and I could be one of those coaches too. I'm not gonna lie. I miss the trembling shock days. Headshots were 1 point, body shots were 1 point. Man, those were the good old days, right? But the sport's involved, right? So now we got a new, different kind of type of sparring. But still, it's still sparring, it's still competition, and it's still high-level competition. So you can't say that some of these guys are not going out there and getting knocked out, because some of them are. You go to the Olympic level, some of these guys are getting whacked pretty hard. Are they getting hit as hard as they were back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s? That's up for debate. That's for another conversation, right? But let's go back to the point. Sparring inside of taekwondo school for all students. Yes, I believe they should do it. It will help the student overcome their fears, right? Whatever fear that they're facing, they're afraid of getting hit, they're afraid of hurting somebody, or whatever it is, right? The fear is deeper within, right? It's not, when somebody's afraid of getting hit, it's not so much they're afraid of getting hit. There's other fears later in. What are they afraid of? There's other things going on beneath that. And it could be a variety of different things. And as taekwondo instructors, as taekwondo masters, as taekwondo coaches, our job is not just to focus on making them a better fighter, but a better person, right? And we can do that with sparring, right? We don't even need to pair them up with somebody on their level. We can pair, let's say you have a kid, he's 8 years old, 9 years old, and he's just terrified of sparring. It's just not a thing. You could pair him up with a 16, 17-year-old black belt who knows how to use control. He knows how to work his way around and help these younger kids become better. Or you can pair him up with a 5 or 6-year-old who doesn't really know anything since his first day and let him spar against him without the fear of getting hurt, right? Now they don't have any fear of getting hurt, and they're overcoming their fears by sparring, right? Now they're like, hey, I'm actually sparring. And you know what? I might enjoy it. I kind of enjoy it. Hey, you know what? I want to try doing competition. Hey, you know what? I want to try to go for the Olympics. Hey, you know what? I want to do this for the rest of my life. When we don't allow our students to spar, when we hinder them from the sparring, we're doing more damage, right? Why are they doing Taekwondo? Number one reason why we should be teaching our students Taekwondo is to any kind of martial art, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, karate, Taekwondo, judo, whatever it may be, boxing. Number one reason is to instill that confidence in them, right? Once we instill the confidence in our student, then they become a better version of themselves, right? Giving them that tool that they need to become better people. If you're in there just to rack up gold medals, you're not going to go very far. I'm sorry. Coaches that are emotionally invested in their student will go a lot further than coaches that are just there for the win. Wins are great. We all want to win, right? We got to feed our ego somehow, right? I mean, come on. We all want to win. We all want medals and all that. But a bigger win would be able to take somebody used to be afraid, like me, afraid to do roller coaster rides, afraid to go to the beach, to go do the merry-go-round, afraid to do those things, and now not afraid. I'm flying on an airplane. I don't care. I want to go skydiving. I'll go bungee jumping. I'm not afraid of the things that I used to be afraid of. And Taekwondo and sparring played a huge role in that. It really did. And I've seen kids who, had I let them say, okay, you know what? You don't have to spar. Right? Don't spar. You're fine. You can get your black belt. Had I let them do that, I don't think they would be successful in their sparring career as they were. Right? Because they would have never, well, they would have actually, not I don't think, I know for a fact, had I not let them spar, they would have never been successful in their sparring career. I've had people make it to the national championship that used to be afraid of sparring. But I gave them the opportunity to push them. I said, look, I sat down with the mom and I sat down with the dad and I sat down with the kid and I said, look, I understand that you don't like getting hit. That's fine, but you gotta spar. I mean, it's part of the curriculum. It will always be a part of the curriculum. I'm never gonna take it out. You gotta spar, right? You gotta overcome that fear. And they finally understood and they said, okay, you know what? If you want to get that black belt, we're gonna spar. And so they finally started sparring, and then a couple years later, they're national champion, right? Because they took that step to overcome the fear to become fighters or to start sparring. So I recommend and I encourage all the master instructors out there, all of the coaches out there and school owners to always keep sparring part of the curriculum. Again, it is not fighting. There's a huge difference between sparring and fighting. And that's a debate for another time. I know some of you guys down here, no, these kids need to fight full contact and they don't deserve the black belt until they can take a hit. Guys, come on. All right? I understand it is 2021 and I understand, back in the 70s, I get that everybody was tough, but can you really say, even back in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, that 100% of all of the students really wanted to spar, really wanted to fight? I mean, look, some of us are afraid of things. And you're going to be lying to yourself and saying, no, nobody's afraid of anything. People are afraid of things. And some of the students are afraid. Are you really going to turn away student? Are you really going to not help your student because you have this ego or have this pride of, if they can't fight, they can't stay. If they don't spar, they can't stay. Sorry. Yeah, they need to spar. They need to spar. But if you're gonna if they can't take a hit, they can't take. Let them spar. Let them have fun with it. Who knows? The kid that might be afraid to spar might be your next Olympic champion. You never know. Or he might be the next millionaire because he learned to have confidence to tackle on new things. Right? Sparring will help your students build up that confidence so they can go on and do new and better and greater things. And wouldn't you want to be the coach to do that? The person that helped them? So yes, sparring. Should all of the students spar? Should all martial arts practitioners spar? I say yes. Now, fighting? No, not everybody has to fight. Competition? Nah, not everybody has to do competition. I don't think everybody needs to be out there going full competition if they don't want to. Should everybody try it at least once? I think so. I think everybody should at least try competition to see if they like it. And if they don't like it, at least they can say they tried. You know, when I come to national championships, sorry to go off tangent here, but when it comes to national championship, I always tell my students, go to the national championship. Try it. Who knows? You might become the national champion. You might be the gold plate winner of the United States national champion of AAU, USAT. You never know if you don't try, right? And on top of that, how many of you can say that you actually fought at the national championship, right? Think about all the students you have, right? I have 150 plus students. I took 20 people to national, right? 20 of my students will actually be able to say, I fought at the national championship. That's something that you can say. And this year was awesome, and it's going to be at AAU again, AAU Nationals again, going to be at the MGM Grand. I was trying to convince all my students, hey, go fight at the MGM Grand. How often can you say, hey, I fought at the MGM Grand? Who else has fought at the MGM Grand? It's only some of the greatest fighters in the world? I mean, come on. So, yeah, sorry to get off the topic a little bit, but sparring, I really believe, is important in every martial artist's life, right? Whether they're a white belt or a black belt. And I know some of you guys saying, well, white belts don't possess the skill necessary to spar. And you might be right, yes. But I will have my white belt fight other white belt, right? Because they're learning. And I have right now, I have this little 5-year-old girl who's just, she doesn't mind taking a hit, and she doesn't mind hitting other people. And it's like contact, obviously. I mean, I'm not allowing my students to go all out, you know, but it's fun. It's fun. It's fun to watch, and it's going to be challenging. As an owner myself, it is challenging to convince all of your students to fight. It is. It really is. But it'll be worth it because, like I said, you'll never know. You might have that one kid who's always afraid of fighting that doesn't want to do it. Be your next national champion. Be your next Olympic. Not only that, forget the Taekwondo world, right? They might go on and be the next world famous doctor and they can look back on it and say, it was all because my coach and my instructor and my master forced me to do something that I did not want to do. So, masters, coaches, instructor owners, school owners, make your kids spar. That's my thought. That's my belief. If you disagree, go ahead, comment. Let me know. I hope you're enjoying these podcasts. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything like that, please feel free to leave me a message, comment, and yeah, I'll get back to you. And I hope you guys are enjoying it. And y'all have a great day. See y'all later.